Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today is the owner and operator of the Stone Grotto, Shelby Stephens. Shelby, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is really
cool.
So
happy to be here.
Yeah, I reached out to you pretty early on in this process because around the time that we'll talk exactly when it was, but you had started your business. Has it been 2 years now?
It's actually been since August 15th of 2020.
Okay, so a full year. But I remember seeing a post of the floor. That's what caught my eye.
Yes.
It's on 21st in Springfield, 21st and Main Street. There's a little set of shops right there, kind of where Busy Bee. Is that correct?
Right next to Busy Bee.
Yeah, and I saw you posted something. And so I had been doing the podcast for a couple years, but you posted something and said, "Hey guys, I'm starting my own business." And I'm like, ooh, when that gets up and running, I want to definitely have you on the show. And we had kind of known each other through different ways. Amy Marie was one of my first guests with the Defiant Divas. And then I kind of got that connection that you were involved with that at some capacity. And then just through, Facebook and stuff, it's pretty cool. So we're going to talk a lot about what it is that you do at the Stone Grotto, but I'm going to read kind of what it says on your website, which I'm going to link in the show notes. Really, it's just Facebook. But the Stone Grotto is a crystals and metaphysical boutique that has a passionate following and offers a, quote, a place where you can come and find peace, healing, love, and good energy. So tell me what it is that you do at the Stone Grotto.
So I resell natural stones, and that means that they're stones that come from the earth that are not man-created. There are some that are man-created, but so when I sell these crystals, a lot of people believe in the metaphysical world that our earth has energy, you know what I mean? Which absolutely, we're a floating rock in space, you know what I mean? And so the earth creates these rocks and it bonds with its energy, and we get to benefit from this energy that comes from the earth in the form of these rocks and crystals and stones.
Yeah. And I mean, I work at a barbershop on campus, and we recently moved into a new location, and we are right next door to the Breezeway. Yes. And I had no idea. I did know because of your Facebook group and following that a little bit and watching how avid the fan base is. But I had no idea until I saw it every day, the foot traffic and how many people are like coming back for more. So, I don't want to downplay the significance. I think that there is some absolute truth to what you're saying about the energy that is contained in what comes from the earth. But, if it's helping people, I'm not going to knock it no matter what, because I know it brings people joy. So that's really cool. And my whole show, the whole point of what I do is sharing stories of the underrepresented. And I think that this is just something people may scoff at, may kind of be like, oh, I don't know. And I just wanted to kind of have you on to hear what you have to say, so that not only for what you do, but also to talk to you about just being a business owner, a Black-owned business, which is really huge. And so, yeah, that's great. How did this business come to be?
Oh, okay. So this is where my belief in everything kind of started. So I was married, and it was not a good marriage. It was very, when it was one of those relationships where you lose yourself completely, and the depression, and you don't really know who you are anymore at that point. And so when I reached a point to where I actually left for good and got out of that situation, is when I kind of, discovered this. And the best way I like to describe it to really, I'm a very picture type of person, visual. And so I explain this relationship as being in a very deep, dark, black well with a pinpoint of light, at the end of the tunnel. And then getting out of that relationship was me crawling up towards that surface. And, when you're in the dark so long and you have these hard thoughts, and you reach the light again and you get out of that situation, you see the world in a whole different view. And before this, I mean, I've always believed in aliens and like I've never put, ghosts and like I've always been into it, but never like avid, like, like into it. And then once I got out of this hole and saw this light, it was like things started like happening. And I heard this word empath. And then I kind of like went into that and I was like, I read this like book and it was describing me to a T. And then I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And then I discovered crystals. And then realizing that I felt different when I would hold, I never was a rock collector. Growing up, I wasn't into all of this. I never was like, I want to do tarot. I'm going to own a crystal shop one day. I thought I was going to be in the WNBA, to be honest. And so when I got out of this hole and I discovered crystals, I'm going to be honest, I like blacked out. I was like, oh my gosh, when I realized like, oh, these make me feel good, I kind of blacked out and went shopping and like spent way too much money and bought way too many crystals. And so I was like, okay, all these boxes are showing up. So I was like, all right, I got to get rid of some of these. So I'm like, I'm just going to try to sell a few of them. So that's what I did. I had a group already. I was selling leggings. I've done all the little MLM business, and so I just put a couple on there. I was like, is anybody interested? Because I can't return them. So they all sold and they're like, you have more? And I was like, well, actually, I happen to have more. So I like, and then like overnight, it was like this business that just started.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
And to start a business in 2020, is wild. And August. So, I mean, when things were really at its peak of struggle, which may have benefited you. We don't need to get into the finances, negotiating with the space and all that stuff. Because it wasn't an existing business, right? You didn't buy you just found a storefront that was empty.
So I was online selling for 3 years after I
right, but the location.
This. Yes, the location. Yeah, this was not planned.
Yeah, and I mean it's great to hear some success stories and things go well, but I want to give a shout out to all the people that just limped through 2020 and if they're still in business and it was just such a crazy year, and so difficult for so many. I know I had a friend of mine on who had started a nail salon and she had started it like in January of 2020. And then it's like, what, and she's still pushing along. She's incredible, So what are some of the most popular items that you sell?
Oh gosh, I would say points. A lot of the little points, because you can put them points and tumbles. Because points are actually, they're just things you can set. They're like little towers that you can place and just have that kind of energy that you need in the room. And then we have another little like kind of tumble, something that you can take with you, hold. I have ADHD, so I'm very into like, things that I can fuddle with while I'm thinking. Right. So yeah, absolutely.
And then you said you had mentioned tarot. So is that the most popular service that you offer? And can you kind of explain? Well, first let's talk about, there's other services that you offer. So what are some of those and what's the most popular?
So right now, oh gosh, we've done so many different types of classes. Like we've had paint nights where we've painted like this. I make these goddess body candles. And so we painted this, moonlit scene with crystals, and that was so much fun. And we've also done a wire wrapping class where everybody got to buy some tumbles. But yeah, I would say tarot reading is the most popular service by far. And what tarot reading is it's a form of divination. So it gives you answers to questions. Thank you, Betty. We get questions to, relationships, life, jobs. And I wouldn't say it's telling the future. I think it's just kind of subconsciously bringing out the intuition that we ignore.
Right.
So it kind of brings out those answers that we deep down, we already know, but.
Right. And I'm sure that people take it different levels of serious, sometimes they just want something different, and people have money that they want to use, and it's retail therapy. It's just like anything for a lot of, I mean, there's all positives that come from it. That's the thing. So I know that some people will go, I just, I had a really good friend. She was super into astrology, and I used to clown her all the time. And she's like, I don't make fun of your religion. And I'm like, what? It's not a religion. But then I thought about it more, and I'm like, it's really embedded in someone's spirituality. So I'm not going to knock something that brings people joy, I mean, I mean,
Yes.
if you're sitting there telling people like in their tarot readings, like, yeah, you're screwed.
Oh no.
No, I know
See,
it's
and
all
that's
positive.
yeah, absolutely. That's the thing about it. It's like, even when, when witches are around, people think that they have a negative context just because history. But, and like, people even think that stones could have like negative, energy. But I personally don't believe that. I feel like it's the person, the intent with the negative energy towards it. I was like, I don't think our earth would create something negative.
Right, right.
It's
So
the people who create the negativity on the earth.
So metaphysics, I wrote down the definition. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that studies the first principles of being, identity and change, space and time, necessity and possibility. And it includes questions about the nature of consciousness and the relationship between mind and matter. And I think you've kind of painted that picture of what that means, just basically that it's created by the earth and that it contains kind of power. I've had a lot of friends growing up in Eugene. This is not incredibly foreign. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
people, especially when I was in South Eugene High School. Shout out to Amok. She's a big one that's always posting about crystals and what it on Facebook. And it's hard, it's hard to knock it when you see how, like I said, how much positivity comes from it. So I've mentioned your Facebook group, and in the show notes, I'm going to link to your Facebook page, which then you'll see all the posts on your page are our private group, but it's pretty easy to become a member or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
So people will be able to find that there. In your Facebook group, I had followed it early on, and I want to talk a little bit about what the women, mostly women, what
Yes.
they mean to you, because they are avid fans. I mean, it's wild. And yeah, talk about that a little bit.
It is kind of crazy because I was born and raised in Eugene, and so I've been known through different things throughout my life, basketball, makeup artist, and now Crystal Lady has been getting known at coffee shops. And I fully believe in treating people how I want to be treated. And I don't think that a lot of people are used to that, just I really try to be the most pure version of myself. And so I feel like it draws in a lot of people. And I would consider myself what's to be a healer. I feel like sometimes like I'm a walking crystal. I know that may sound weird, but you're drawn to what you need in your life at the moment. And I'm a very positive person. And so I feel like it's kind of like rubbing off on people, and so it makes people want to come back. And that's what I want, because I want them to rub that positivity off on other people and just to kind of create that web of positivity to move forward. And it
Yeah.
has to start with a source,
And
and I want to be that source.
right. And that it's leadership. I mean, from afar, I've watched what you've done, and it's leadership, because for you individually, but the group, it's not about you. That's the beautiful thing about a leader, is that it's like, I'm going to guide this group to get somewhere, which you don't even know where necessarily, but I'm going
Yeah.
to do it by setting the example and that kind of thing. But then, I want to push those qualities onto the next people. So delegation is huge. But in the group, it's wild to see. And Defiant Divas, if anybody hasn't listened, it's one of my first episodes. It was about body positivity. A lot of plus size girls that were wanting to feel sexy. And so,
Yes.
and that is something that I can see a trend with this group, where there's these women that are like, I got my crew. And you talk about mental health, which I really want to get into a little bit, because one of the things that you're really public about is, look, girls, I need a day off. Like I need a me day. And so talk about why mental health, being public and open about it, is so important, and why showing your vulnerabilities has actually paid off.
So my entire life, I've struggled with depression, and I I always kept everything in, and always I was a people pleaser and always tried to put my feelings aside, and it just so was so detrimental to my health for my whole life. Like I struggled so hard with it internally. Like I became like a professional masker to where you would think I wasn't depressed because I was so happy. But like now, like I'm truly happy, and I got there because of this. And I've learned that keeping it all in, that you think that you're alone and that you're just like kind of dying inside. But when like I heard people talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going through it. Like I'm not the only person that's struggling with this level of severity of depression, and how many people actually were. And now that I have my own business and I can make my own schedule, and I have a daughter, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm now I've been in therapy for 4 years since leaving that situation. I haven't had any bouts of like hard depression since. And I want to be that role model for not only just everybody, but for my daughter, because life is hard and people are cruel. And it's just like, and also for like this store, like I just want it to be that place where you can feel comfortable to talk about anything that you're going through, whether it's you're feeling crazy, because going through all of this will also make you feel crazy. You're like, what is happening to me? Like these crystals make me feel something, like why, and it does, it makes you feel crazy. Like, but then being so open about everything, you just realize that you're not alone. And I just wanted this to be, and my group to be, the most positive place where body positivity, just life, like anything that you're going through. So it's important that I have to like set boundaries.
Yeah.
Because I never did in my life,
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm ready to set those boundaries.
And as a business, the boundaries is difficult because there's people that have invested and, they've bought, continuously came back and spent their money. And then they kind of need that a little bit. So then that's the difficult thing to navigate, I'm sure, because there's days where you're like, I just can't do it. I need to curl up in a ball, which is totally fine. And that's that's actually positive. It's a good thing as long as we don't stay there. Yes. But then when they need that, and then like I saw one post from a woman and she said, what are your hours? Because I need to come down there. I'm not going to drive down there. And it's difficult to navigate people's frustrations, in a retail setting. But I think the more that people are involved with what you do, they'll understand, and then your social media presence is a huge part of that, I'm sure.
Yes. I'm like being a single mom, and I honestly didn't go looking for a space and to like have a storefront. The stars aligned and it found me, just like this whole world found me. It just like stars lined, fate opened its door and just booted my ass right through it. And
and just watching it from afar, I mean, I've been able to see that it's exploded. I mean, it seems like it's doing really well. Let's talk about one of the things that's really successful, and that's with the unboxings on Facebook Live. And I think you've done both Facebook Live, Instagram, all that. But let's, on streaming platforms like Facebook, you can stream a live feed and explain to us what you do. I mean, it's basically just unboxing when you order. Yeah, you can explain it.
Oh, yeah. So I order my product and I get it from, in the mail, and I will literally just go live and just like unbox it. And it's just a form of ASMR, and I'm not prepared to tell you what that is because I forget it every single time. It's a auditory, sensory, kind of thing. And I love it. Like I'm very much into like ASMR. And so people love different mediums being opened and textures, and it's just calming, and it helps with stress. It helps with depression. It helps you fall asleep. It's amazing. And so I love doing those things. People love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
I'm familiar with AMSR for sure. And, like you said, just, it's kind of calming, watching. I've allowed myself to get outside my own comfort zone and watched 5 minutes of like a woman talking about different makeup, which I know, nothing about. I'm like, what the heck is this? Just because I'm a wanderer, I want to know more about what makes people tick. And just on Instagram, I watched this video one time, and it's a person I know, but I'm just like, what the heck? Because she was so into it, and I'm watching the comments, and it's like, I'm doing something wrong. Because
Right.
because the reach, not that I really care about how many plays or any of that stuff, but I mean, it was just insane just watching these just people like, oh my gosh, girl,
Same.
so
I'm like, I
yeah.
could do this.
So, I mean, I guess what is the biggest challenge that you have found in this last year? Obviously the COVID stuff, and I've seen, just dealing with people not wanting to mask up and all that stuff. So that aside, if this was a normal year, which it's not, but if it was, what do you think the biggest challenge is for the business?
Okay, so I would say the biggest challenge was going into this not expecting to have a storefront, so not knowing anything that it took to run a business by myself, and so just like trying to do everything by myself. That's the biggest. And people are like, well, you started a business, so you should have been prepared to hire an employee, and I was like, I wasn't prepared for any of this. And so just kind of learning business as I go has been the biggest challenge. And I would say the second biggest challenge would be some people kind of, I'm very free with my energy, but it's the energy vampires that come in and kind of just like unload everything, the drain from it. So that can be a little exhausting, but I would say probably learning the business on my own would be the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And I mean, having an employee brings in a whole different, there's pros and cons, and obviously with a
Yes.
small business, I mean, it's like, it's peaks and valleys. And when it's just you that you have to rely on, that's a lot easier. I know that
It is.
in my barber world, cutting hair, it's, you bring in more barbers because you want to have a bigger flow,
Right.
more people coming in. But then at the same time, on campus, there's peaks and valleys. We have downtimes where the students leave, and then it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? But
Right.
Overall, it's good. What are your plans for the holidays? Personal and business. Yeah.
So right now we have the store decked out in my favorite Harry Potter. You can see my sorting hat up there, one of my friends made. So we're running a toy drive at the shop, and I'm doing like a 12 days of deals starting tomorrow. And I made some advent calendars. So the shop, we always have a great Christmas and Yule. It's one of my favorite times of year. And then for my home life, we do my daughter and I have our own Christmas, and we go to her grandmother's, and we're bringing all my family together for like a white elephant. So
they've got to be, your family has to be incredibly proud of you, because it's like you said, it's not what you expected the path for it to take. But I'm sure that last Christmas was so new when you were explaining to the family what was going on, but this year they're like, you're really doing it, and they've got to be really happy, and that's exciting. So I think I'm going to get out of here. I wanted to be short and sweet with this one. Now, one more thing. Now, if somebody were to not be familiar at all with crystals, but they were interested in checking out your business, what is the kind of thing that they would look for the first time that they come in? You were talking about the tumblers. Maybe that's something that maybe they can start small. Kind of
So I do have a lot of cards explaining kind of what they are, what their metaphysical properties are. But for beginners, I love to suggest not looking at any of them. Yeah. Because not looking at any of the cards and what they mean, because that just like purely teaches you to like trust your intuition and just what you're drawn to, because 100% of the time it's going to be what you need anyway. Like your energy knows. So, and it always is. So whenever they grab it, and it's always like what they need in their life at the moment.
So now, are you there? What hours or roughly? I mean, you kind of make your own hours, but
so for the most part, I mean, if I have things going on, then I have to leave here and there, but it's Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 5.
Nice. And it's on 21st and Main in Springfield. Yes. And it's a cool little boutique. And I mean, I don't know if we can drill this home enough. Support local, guys. Like everybody, this is a business. Like you had said, the toy drive is something you can go do. And then, 12 days of deals. There's a lot of things you can do to support local. So this is an opportunity. Do you have gift certificates? Is that something you've set up yet?
Absolutely. Yeah. We sure do.
I just did that with Square. It's not super public because we all have independent barbers at my shop, so I'm the only one that's set it up yet. But Square is an incredible thing, because I just had someone ask. They're like, my son goes to school there, and he wants a gift certificate. I live out of the area, and I'm like, well, let me figure it out, and it's pretty easy. Okay. Yeah, they're pretty incredible. And so if you're looking to start a business, that's another thing that I'm somebody that would love to answer questions about whatever it is I know, which is little, but still to get you started. I know you had mentioned possibly wanting to start a podcast, and that's something that I'm super passionate about. A lot of times with podcast or art or creativity, people are competitive, and I think it's ridiculous. I think that the right attitude for art should be, let's get as much of it out there so that you can find every little corner and crevice of the interest. I mean, my audience doesn't need to be the same as yours. I'm sure there'll be crossover, but my goal is to expose other people to how to do it. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I would love to. Oh, when I start, I would love to have you. I don't know if you, do the medical or the marijuana, but
I've never actually used cannabis. No, that's a lie.
Oh,
no, that's a lie. No. And my kids are now old enough. I've always kind of been on their wraps with it, because I didn't want to set an example. The most important thing when it comes to cannabis is it's something you do at the end of the day. That's what I feel like. Yes. I think that you get your goals done first, and then you can let go. I am an alcoholic, so I've been sober for 5 years. So that's the only thing I use is coffee.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And coffee, and I've got an oil pen and I got a bunch, but no, yeah. The podcast. I
just want to get high with people and talk about metaphysical.
That sounds like Eugene. That's amazing. Well, exactly. Lane County. I do want to say that the podcast, you haven't even started it yet, and it's already more popular than mine. But no, it's going to be successful, and I'm going to help you behind the scenes with that. So that'll be really cool.
Thank you. Shelby, and whatever I can do to help you.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. Before I get out of here, I want to say we're coming to the end of the year, and so I'm going to take a couple weeks off for the holidays. I might sneak in an episode. I'm going to try something I've never done soon, and I don't know if I'm going to do it before the end of the year, but I'm going to do an episode with no guest. I'm going to do an episode by myself talking about a lot of stuff, and I'm going to try it. It's a scary thing, because it's a lot easier to have the exchange, but I've been doing this for about 4 years, and it's something I've always wanted to do, so that if I had an episode fall through, because scheduling or whatever, I want to be able to do that. So it's a goal of mine to do. So keep your eyes peeled for me ranting on the mic by myself. But I want to give a special shout out to Oregon Cashflow Pro. James Barber has supported my podcast now since the beginning. Huge part of how I've continued to push through. There's been times when I've wanted to quit, but the fact that he has a little financial backing for me has made me realize, okay, there's people that believe in me and continue to. Also, shout out to Subdermal Art Collective, a tattoo parlor in Eugene, Jake Williams and Jonathan Wade. They're doing incredible work. And even if you're not going to get tattooed by them just because of whatever, look up Subdermal Art Collective just for the art. And then shout out to the Dirtball Energy Bites, which is Dirtball is the MC, but Dirtball Energy Bites is a locally made snack, and that's a great sponsor as well. If you'd like to become an individual sponsor, you can go to strpod.com/sponsors. And also, one last thing, I want to say thank you to the people that have recommended episodes and people that have reached out. I've talked to, like Shelter Care last week. They reached out to me and said, hey, we want to come on the show. And I was like, absolutely. I love when that happens. I also love how, like, this episode was something I've been hounding you about. It's been something that was more organic that I saw just from Facebook. But the show recommendations are really amazing, because it makes me feel like I'm part of the conversation and that people are enjoying what I'm doing. So if you're interested in recommending a show, or you're a business or a social cause or just an individual that wants to talk about a public issue, then go to my email is patty@strpod.com. All this information can be found on my website, which is strpod.com as well. So Shelby Stephens, the Stone Grotto, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I haven't been to the business. I'm going to have to come check it out. So it's Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5? 11 to 5. Okay, so we're going to get out of here. This is a song by me, Patty Rose, featuring ADHD. This is Sounds Like Christmas.
As the air gets crisp and the kiddies read their wish list, on the top of it all is a hip-hop Christmas. The sun and team's louder as our town is blanketed with powder, not the kind to get sniffy with. Put your beanie on, grab some gloves and some booties. Get ready to meet some in their fashion rockin' cuties. Find yourself planted underneath the mistletoe and look around for the best. It's what Santa says when he loads up in your chimney. Maybe grandma has some snickerdoodle she could give me, or some of that pumpkin pie. Best season to be alive. It's what Santa says when he loads up in your chimney. Maybe grandma has some snickerdoodle she could give me, or some of that pumpkin pie. Best season to be alive. It sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird. Sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird.
Yeah, you're weird.
We out here in mighty Oregon, tall trees and shiny ornaments. On your best behavior, put your order in. Be nice to the losers and you're sure to win. We bring toys for tots to the orphanage. Boys and girls with enormous grins. Christmas wish list stocking stuff with trinkets, treats, and the gift of love. The time is now, chill with the fam, relax. We got ribbons and bows and a fancy wrap. Set the scene for young and old. Grubby fingers in the candy bowl. Pudding, pie, and gingerbread. Catchy little jingles getting stuck in your head. Street cred, respect, putting in work. Happy holidays and peace on
It
earth.
sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird. Sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird. It sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird. Sounds like Christmas is here. It's time for spreading some cheer. I've got eggnog in my beard. My niece and nephew think I'm weird.
Yeah, you're weird. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin waited in. The Batmobile lost to me when Joker got away. Hey, 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 hey.